Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting day of masterclasses hosted by the IAPC&M. I'm your host, Elena Nedeva, APC, and I'm delighted to be here with you. We have dedicated today, September 11th, to 5 webinars that will support each coach on the journey towards establishing their coaching business. We started the day with Donna McGrath, who shared practical tips and guidance about how to identify the niche each coach is truly great at. The second masterclass was by Ian Norton, and he gave us a confidence boost, revealing the secrets of becoming authentically confident as a coach. Previously, Marie-Louise gave us practical tips on using Canva to transform one's coaching brand. As a reminder, this masterclass is recorded, and to ensure quality of the recordings, please mute your microphones, but keep your videos on if you wish. The session is going to be interactive, so please feel free to unmute yourselves when you would like to ask a question or put it in the chat. I will read it out loud for everyone. You're also encouraged to fill in your CPD logs with takeaways and ideas. So please grab your notepads, sit back, listen, and enjoy. Up next speaking is Rajeev Nayak, a positive intelligence certified executive and Marshall Goldsmith stakeholder-centered leadership coach. Rajeev is also a business strategy consultant and a mentor. He enjoyed a distinguished career spanning over 25 years of senior international leadership and business experience in corporate as well as entrepreneurial roles across Asia, Europe, UK, and the CIS. With over 500 hours of executive coaching with CEOs and senior executives, he has developed a strong understanding of the developmental needs and mindset issues faced by CEOs, leaders, and business owners. In addition, Rajeev is serving several SMEs globally in the capacity of business consultant, advisor, and board member. He also has a specialization in business growth strategy, leadership, and organizational development. Last but not least, Rajeev is the founder and CEO of 2 businesses in the UK, Exponentium Consulting and BioBalance Healthcare. Last but not least, Rajeev speaks 6 languages, including English, Russian, Ukrainian, Hindi, Marathi, and Konkani. He loves nature, animals, and is passionate about helping others leading more holistic lives. Without further ado, I'm really privileged, Rajeev, to welcome you again to this IAPC&M Masterclass. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Elena, for that very kind and gracious introduction. Hello and welcome to some of you who joined a little bit later, Veronica, Steve. Great to see you, David and Dawn. Lovely to meet you all. Lovely to see you all. I hope this session will be as interesting for you or more interesting than some of the others that you've attended today. And I hope that by the end of today's session, you'll take away some actionable tips and insights which will help you for your own business growth. We are going to talk today about how our mind sabotages our personal and business growth. And this is something which I have seen over my experience. It's something which is relevant for all business owners, whether it is a coaching business or any other small business. I myself transitioned from the corporate world, as Elena mentioned. I transitioned from the corporate world about 7 years ago into entrepreneurship. And like with any other big change in life, this change was terrifying for me. But eventually I made it. And some of the experiences that I had over the, over this period, I use some of those experiences now to share them with other business owners. And I'm sure that some of these things, some of these points will be useful for you. As I understand, all of you have a business. I mean, the reason why you're here is because you have a business, either it's a coaching business or any other small business. And some of the insights that we're going to talk about today are relevant for coaching businesses as well as any other small business. Now, before we talk about, before we go any further, I'm going to actually skip through the introduction because I think Elena has been quite elaborate with that. Um, I wanted to just share some statistics to start with. And here are some statistics actually, which recently I've been reading up on. If you look at UK small businesses, and I'm assuming that a large portion of the audience today is UK or Ireland centric, and which is why I am sharing insights related to the UK. But most of these insights are the same, or pretty much similar in other parts of the world. When it comes to small businesses, about 20% of UK small businesses fail in the first year itself. And by the time they reach 5 years, about 60% of small businesses fail. This includes coaching businesses as well. But when you actually, look at coaching businesses more specifically, about 80% of those small businesses ultimately fail to scale up. The toll that it takes on the psychological state of mind of the business owner, the founder, is tremendous. And about 37% of small business owners in the UK say that they have experienced burnout at different stages of running their business. And about 47% of small SME owners in the UK, they say that they have their mental health negatively impacted in the course of running the business. And the situation seems to be getting worse after the pandemic. People tend to think that things have got easier after the pandemic, but in the business world, it's got a lot worse. So, what is behind all of this? There is also the thing about income, which adds to anxiety, especially if you are in the coaching business. And given the inflation and the high cost of living that we are experiencing everywhere in the UK and Europe, income and revenue is something which is at the top of mind for most business owners. And what we see today is that about 53% of coaches around the world. This is actually a global study, and the study showed that about 53% of coaches actually are not able to cross the 30,000 USD per annum mark from their coaching business. That comes to approximately, I believe it's about 22,000 pounds if you convert that into pounds, and that is difficult, right? Given the context around inflation and so on and so forth. Now, what my experience and research has shown is that with most small businesses, it is not a lack of strategy or skills which actually come in the way of them, of the founder growing the business. I am currently, as Elena has mentioned, I am growing two businesses parallelly. One is my consulting and coaching business. The other business, which she mentioned, BioBalance, is basically a healthcare business where we bring innovative natural supplements and medical devices for mainly targeted at women and children. And for those of you who are in the UK, I'm sure that some of the solutions, the healthcare solutions that we offer might be of interest to you. So you can look them up and let me know what you think about these. The website is in the chat right now. This business has got nothing to do with my consulting and coaching business. It's a totally independent and parallel business. But what I've realized from my experience with business strategy is that some of the core principles of strategy remain the same, whether it is a pharma business, a healthcare business, a printing business, a legal business, a coaching business, any business. Some of the fundamental principles of strategy remain more or less the same. What I've also realized is that business success, basically, especially when it is a small or medium business, because the reason why I'm focusing more on small and medium business is because when the business becomes large, it becomes a large organization, there are more complexities involved there. And then there are actually some other factors, including external factors, which also come into play in the success of the business. But when it comes to small or medium business, I have seen two major factors which play a role in the success or failure of the business. The first is the strategy of the business, and the second is the mindset of the founder. These are the two major, key pillars on which any successful business stands. And what I've seen from my experience and from working with thousands of business owners over the last few years is that it is more the mindset and less the strategy. The strategy is also equally important, but it is more of the mindset which actually makes or breaks the business. And we are going to talk a lot about that mindset in today's session. The other part of the work which we do in Exponential is about strategy, helping small business owners with their strategy. But it is the mindset that we are going to focus on in today's session. There is this very famous quote by Brian Tracy, and she said that fear and self-doubt have always been the greatest enemies of human potential. And that's true even for business owners, especially when we start up with a business, with a new business. It is these two, emotions which always come in the way of our success. And it is the ability to deal with the fear and the self-doubt and the ability to bounce back from setbacks, which are part and parcel of running any business, that eventually dictate, how successful and how long you're going to go with the business. And to bounce back from setbacks, we need a tremendous amount of mental resilience. And so that is something which we need to grow as a business owner. And only if we are able to have the mental resilience to deal with setback in a way that we can bounce back faster and effectively is when we are going to be able to sustainably grow our business. Here are some common mindset blocks that we often see with business owners. Fear of failure is a common mindset block. Perfectionism, especially with coaches. I do business coaching with a lot of young coaches, a lot of new coaches, and a lot of them actually want to be perfect in whatever they do, whether it is their website or launching a new offering or a program or just giving a webinar or whatever it is. Perfectionism actually comes in the way of us not being able to take action, not being able to take bold action and waiting for things to be perfect. What is perfectionism? Actually, perfectionism is really subjective, right? What is perfect for me may not be perfect for Elena, and what is perfect for Elena might not be perfect for Rachel. So perfectionism is really, really subjective, but perfectionism always comes as a mindset block for a lot of business owners. We already talked about self-doubt. Stress and overwhelm is another mindset block which comes in the way of growing our business. For a lot of coaches, as coaches, empathy is our superpower, right? For most of us in the coaching industry, we are in the coaching industry because we want to help. We want to actually do good for people, and so empathy is our superpower. But when that goes to the other extreme, we get into people pleasing, and we can't say no. We then actually end up underpricing ourselves, our services and offerings, and that is what actually comes in the way of us growing our business. Another mindset block which often comes in the way of growing our business is procrastination. Right? So these are some of the mindset blocks which often come in the way of business owners and entrepreneurs growing their business sustainably. Why is all of this happening? Now we are going to talk about some of the deep-seated uh, roots of some of these emotional challenges that we face. You must have heard the phrase, your mind can be your best friend, but also your worst enemy. What does that really mean? It means that a lot of times it is our mind that is, we think that it is working for us, but often it is sabotaging our success. Neuroscience now has shown that about 10% of what we do is within our conscious control. About 90% of what we do or the way we feel is actually run by our brain through unconscious neural patterns. Now, most of these patterns are basically part of what we call as the survival mechanism, which we develop as a child, as we are growing up in our formative years. We basically see a lot of things in our environment, and with all of that, we basically develop some of these survival patterns or survival instincts. And uh, these survival instincts eventually become part of some of our mindset blocks. You must have heard of the fight, flight, or freeze instincts, the fight, flight, or freeze strategy. These are basically strategies of our survival brain, the part of our brain which is the limbic system and amygdala. This part of our brain basically is supposed to, the evolutionary objective or role of this part of our brain is to help us survive from threats in our life. Now, for our ancestors who were hunter gatherers who used to live in caves and forests and jungles, for them this was real physical threat. It was a wild animal running behind them, or somebody from another tribe, wanting to kill them to steal their food, and so on and so forth. For most of us, it is not the physical threat which is actually triggering our survival instinct today. It is more of the emotional threats, the multitude of emotional threats that we experience on a daily basis. And when I say emotional threats, what does that mean? It could be anything which our brain may perceive as a threat. For example, a threat to our way of life could be perceived as an emotional threat. A threat to our business, a failure, a perceived failure could be a threat which our brain could perceive as an emotional threat. It could be a threat to our self-image. Right? We all want to be seen as competent individuals in our network and within our society, and that also leads to fear of failure. So all of these threats, all of these real or perceived threats, are trigger the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism from our survival brain, and that shows up in the form of various survival behaviors. And over time, they become more and more hardwired, which means that we start using more of these saboteur responses. We call them saboteur responses because they sabotage our business, our success in different ways. And when we undergo trauma in different ways, in fact, it worsens these saboteur patterns because any new trauma basically adds to whatever trauma you have actually experienced in the past. For example, whatever happened with COVID was traumatic for most of us. Right? It was a once in a generation pandemic, which none of us had actually seen. And for us human beings, it was not usual to sit at home and not socialize with people, for example. That in itself was traumatic. And then if we, for those of us who had challenges with loved ones falling sick or losing a loved one and so on and so forth, it was extremely traumatic, the whole situation around the pandemic. There are so many other things which happen on a day-to-day basis which add to our trauma. And these traumatic events, basically, they lead to our saboteur responses, our survival responses becoming even more pronounced. And then when we don't get enough support, the animation in the bottom right is something which I really like. When we don't, that's when we don't get enough support from people around us, right? And when people tend to think that we are overreacting to stimuli to situations in our life, that's when the traumas get even worse as well. So when that happens, we try to resolve. We try to get into personal development. We try to go for training, coaching. We attend webinars. We read books, and we try to find ways in which we can get better at these challenges. And why is it that many of these traditional methods of training and development, why do they not give sustainable results? The issue is that most of these survival responses, whether it is fear or anxiety or self-judgment, self-doubt, they are deep-seated and hardwired in our brain. Just by actually reading a book of how to deal with self-doubt, for example, you are not going to be able to deal with self-doubt because the parts of the brain actually which give rise to self-doubt, they are working unconsciously, which means that they are not in your conscious control. So what we need to do, if we have to actually deal with challenges like self-doubt and anxiety, is that we need to rewire our brain. We need to understand the root cause of these challenges and use a simple operating system which is easy to understand and use in our daily life. This is the only way in which we can see we can make sustainable change in the way we behave as business owners or leaders in our businesses. All other traditional methods may show initial results, but in 3, 4, 5 months, you see that the change has just fizzled out, and you go back to your previous ways of reacting to difficult situations. This is where positive intelligence comes in. Positive intelligence is basically a synthesis of four different sciences: positive psychology, neuroscience, cognitive behavioral science, and performance science. And this is the research around this has been published in the book called Positive Intelligence. It's a New York Times best-selling book. And the research actually was driven by a gentleman called Shirzad Shamin, with whom I have trained. And this research actually was conducted on more than 500,000 people from more than 23 countries around the world, which included hundreds of executives, athletes, even students had participated in this research. And some of the findings from the research have been used to create a program and a mobile app which can help us in training our mind to recognize some of these survival patterns and to shift our brain to more positive, empowering patterns, which can help us as business owners, as founders, as leaders to lead with more courage, with fearlessness, and with strategic bent of mind. So basically, when we look at our brain, there are these two parts of the brain which basically drive most of our emotional patterns. It is the survival brain, which is made up of the amygdala and limbic system. This is a little oversimplified, but it helps us in understanding most of our emotional patterns. Uh, the survival brain and most of what we call as our consciousness comes from our prefrontal cortex. This part of the brain is what we call as the thinking brain, and this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex and parts of our right brain, these are the parts which actually help us with being calmer, feeling more joyful, feeling empathy, feeling compassion, having a strategic bent of mind, being focused rather than scattered in our thinking, and so on and so forth. So most of these higher level functions, we sometimes use the word executive functions. They actually come from this part of our brain, which we call as the thriving brain or our positive brain at times. What happens with us human beings, though, is that it is the survival brain which gets triggered. It jumps into action, especially when we are in the midst of stress or in the midst of difficult, challenging situations in our life or in our business. And it is the survival brain which is actually leading to most of our behaviors, our emotions, the way we actually show up, the way we make decisions, and so on and so forth. And that is not the optimal decision. The most of the decisions that we take from our survival brain are usually not the best decisions, and they are the ones which lead to most of those mindset blocks which we discussed earlier. And so when we think about the emotional responses, all of our negative emotional patterns like stress, judgment, anxiety, self-doubt, overwhelm, shame, which is another thing which accompanies when there is fear of failure and things like that. These are all actually seated in our survival brain, whereas the functions which we need as a leader, which includes empathy, creativity, clear-headed focus, compassion, gratitude, strategic thinking, fearlessness, decisiveness. All of these come from our positive brain. But the beauty of the brain is that these two parts of our brain, they don't work together. It is the survival brain which jumps into action first. And what we are supposed to do is that we are supposed to recognize this bias towards the survival brain. We are supposed to understand what the survival brain, because the survival brain is supposed to give us signals that something is wrong. Right? So we are supposed to actually take that as a cue. We're supposed to then calm down the survival brain or quieten that part of the brain, and then switch on our positive brain, which is when we open up all of these capacities. But with most of us, we are not trained to be able to do that. Right? Nobody teaches us all of this in schools, for example. We are not trained on all of these skills in any formal education. So what happens is that we do not recognize how the survival brain is messing with us, with our, with us as human beings, with our relationships, with our businesses, etc., etc. Which is why we stay in the grip of the survival brain. We often use the word hijack. Right? It's the survival brain that hijacks us, hijacks our emotions, and we stay in that hijacked mode for hours together, sometimes days together. Which is why we often experience that we are in a state of stress for days together. We don't sleep, for example. About 80% of the business owners that I work with, they do not sleep well. About 80%. That's staggering. And there was a study actually which was done by WHO, which showed the average was around 43 or 45% around the world. What it means is that the survival brain is constantly triggered, and that's how we are not able to calm down, and we are not able to relax. We are not able to have that peace of mind. So we are, as human beings, we are constantly in the survival mode. It is like a car. If you were to use the analogy of a car, the survival brain is like your accelerator, and the positive brain is like a brake. Right? So they are supposed to actually balance each other. But we are often as if we are in a, it's a car without a brake. So you're constantly in the accelerator mode, and you don't actually use your parasympathetic nervous system, the part of the nervous system which actually helps you in calming down and in using these other parts of the brain which help you with the executive functions. So if you think about it, your mind basically is can either serve you or it can sabotage you, depending on which part of the brain you're using. And what we need to do is we need to learn how to activate this part of the brain, which can which can help us, which can help us with our success, which can help us with our happiness. So the research around positive intelligence has shown that the survival brain also works in certain patterns. There are 10 patterns which the positive intelligence research has shown. These patterns are basically repetitive patterns. Unknowingly, we are following a certain pattern of behavior and emotion. These patterns are basically dependent on our, some of it is based on, uh, the kind of family we are born in, because a lot of it actually gets passed down from our parents. Because as children, we actually observe our parents, our teachers, or people who are around us, and we actually make some conclusions. Our brain automatically makes certain conclusions. Some of it is based on our environment, and by the time we become adults, these saboteurs are often fully formed. What are these saboteurs? These are basically neural patterns, and these are patterns which automatically drive certain behaviors. And so these saboteurs, they make us think and feel in a certain way. Uh, all of us have all of these patterns. We call the judge pattern as the master saboteur. It's a universal saboteur which everybody has. And then we have 9 accomplice saboteurs. They work in tandem with the judge. And these patterns become over time a part of our life. We don't even understand that we are getting hijacked by these saboteurs. So it is almost like a fish in the water. So the fish does not understand that there is anything wrong in it, because they are always in the water. Right? These saboteurs, they are often becoming a part of our life. And they are actually what is leading to most of our mindset blocks. So the judge is behind most of our self-doubt. The controller is behind the fear of losing control. The hyperachiever is what makes us associate our self-worth with our achievement, only with our achievement. So we don't actually value other things in our life. Our life becomes lopsided and we lack work-life balance. The stickler is what actually makes us fear losing image. So we actually want everything to be perfect. We get into this perfectionist mindset block. The avoider is what makes us procrastinate. The hyper vigilant is what makes us, extremely averse to taking risks. And as a business owner, we often have to take calculated risks. The hyper vigilant comes in the way of us taking those calculated risks, and therefore we become over conservative, and we are not able to then innovate or experiment, which is very, very essential to growing our business. The pleaser is what makes us, makes it difficult for us to say no. We end up actually taking too much on our shoulders. And it also, is what comes in the way of, for example, a lot of coaches, they underprice themselves, which is, largely one of the reasons for that is the pleaser. And the hyper rational, where we become dissociated with our emotions. There are lots of these patterns in the positive intelligence research. These patterns basically can be measured. I will share with you an assessment which you can actually use to measure your own saboteur pattern. So there is a test which can be used to measure your patterns, which means that you will know which are your top saboteur patterns and what you can actually do with it. Just becoming aware of these patterns can really help you in dealing with them better. These patterns also then become the source of some of our self-limiting beliefs. Beliefs like I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, I must not make a mistake, and so on and so forth, which leads to fear of failure or fear of making mistakes. So how do they actually show up in our business? When it comes to the judge, for example, we already discussed that it is the root cause of most of our self-doubt. It leads to us actually constantly indulging in self-criticism. It is what erodes our self-confidence. It makes us hesitate on important decisions, whether it is putting yourself out there or investing in marketing or sales. It makes you question your ability, the kind of impact that you can make in the society or in your community. It makes you uh, your your presence, right? As a coach, one of the things which is needed, one of the core competencies is your presence, your coaching presence. That gets impacted significantly by the judge because you're actually viewing the client from a judge mode. And as a coach, one of the things which we learn is that we need to suspend judgment, right? We need to suspend our judgment and we need to be where the client is. And that actually also gets impacted as when we are hijacked by our judge. We try to we end up fixating too much on our flaws in our own self as a leader or as a business owner, as a founder, or flaws in the business, and that actually impacts our ability to innovate. That impacts our ability to take action. With the controller, basically there is the fear of losing control. At a deep-seated level, there is this fear of losing control, which ends up making us behave like micromanagers. Right? We see this behavior all the time when it comes to organizations, because I also run the positive intelligence programs in organizations and teams. And one of the most common behavior which comes to which I get when we do 360-degree feedbacks and things like that in leaders in organizations is that they are micromanagers, which means that they want to control every small nut and bolt. Why is it that people become micromanagers? In traditional coaching, we try to teach them how to delegate, etc., etc. They need to delegate and they need to trust others, etc., etc. But for micromanagers, often it is difficult to delegate because there is a deep-seated belief that I am safe only when I am in control, and I am in control only when I am doing everything. I cannot trust anyone else to do what I do, and that is something which comes in the way of them trusting others in getting things done. And that actually then puts too much load on them, that they take up too much on their shoulders, and which is the perfect recipe for burnout and stress over time. This also disrupts active listening, right? Because you are wanting to control the narrative. As a coach, for example, with the controller, you may want to control the narrative in a certain direction that you think is the narrative should go. Whereas as a good coach, you need to be actually listening attentively, and you need to let the conversation flow in the direction where the client wants to go rather than your own direction, right? You want to be there for your client. That also gets impacted due to the controller saboteur. We also end up actually pushing our clients, our team members too hard with the controller, because we want to get things done our way. So it's like the my way or the highway kind of situation. And this actually leads to a lot of tension and burnout in the team. The hyperachiever makes us think of failure too much. So there are these thoughts like, I'm a total failure, I can't afford to fail, I should have not got into this right now, and so on and so forth. All of those negative thoughts, these are coming from the hyperachiever. With the hyperachiever, we end up measuring our self-worth only with our success, especially work-related success. There are a lot of uh, women business owners, for example, that I've worked with, that I coach. And when I ask them about their success, how do they measure their success? For example, they only talk about their success as a coach or as a business owner, right? They don't talk about their success so much, their success as a mother, for example, their success as a partner, as their success as, in other aspects of their life. So we basically become lopsided in our view of success. How do we measure success in our life? We think of success only in terms of our work success, and we basically, the hyperachiever does not allow us to measure other successes, other places, other things in our life which we are also good at. It does not give it the same importance, and that again leads to a lot of stress, because our work life balance becomes lopsided, and over time that actually leads to burnout. It also leads us to neglect our self care, our relationships, and so on and so forth. And with the business, eventually it undermines long term growth. There may be a tendency to view that, if I work too hard and I run too fast, then I'm going to actually grow my business faster. But eventually, the hyperachiever pattern leads to this undermines long term growth, because eventually it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not a 100-meter sprint that we are running. Growing a business is like a marathon. You need to have that energy over 5 years, over 10 years, and so on and so forth. It's not like, you are going to grow your business in 6 months and then exit it. And so that for that, you need to quieten these voices from your hyperachiever and use some of your the positive brain instincts to be able to understand what is needed for long-term growth and for sustainable success. You need to be able to get over that intense fear of failure that blocks innovation and risk taking, which also is generated by the hyperachiever. The avoider makes you avoid or procrastinate on tasks that feel uncomfortable. This could be, with some coaches, for example, they are particularly reluctant to get into sales and marketing. They are not very, don't want to get into digital marketing activities, for example. They don't want to put themselves out there online, and so on and so forth. And whatever feels unpleasant, the avoider makes us procrastinate, right? And so that again comes in the way of us systematically growing our business. Perfectionism, leads to paralysis of often. So this is like, too much. We want to analyze too much. And there is this phrase which is used often with perfectionism, that too much analysis leads to paralysis, right? So we basically get paralyzed with the sickler often. And this leads to, the launch of the business getting delayed, or anything, any new project which you want to actually launch with your business, or any offer that you want to build. You never end up taking action because you're always thinking it's not perfect enough. And as I said earlier, perfectionism is just a disease. It's so subjective because there's no such thing as perfect, and that actually does not allow us to experiment. With small businesses, what is important is that you are able to experiment. Make small steps rather than wait for things to be perfect. Try small steps. Try something new. See if it's working. If it's not working, make small changes and try something else, and so on and so forth. The stickler does not allow us to do that. The hypervigilant is the one which triggers anxiety, which makes you hesitate in investing, hiring, or making a pivot in your business, which is always needed. Right? It is what actually makes us project fear or anxiety to our clients and team. And so we are never in a relaxed state of mind. We are never in that state of mind where we are grounded and we are making the decisions without any kind of fear. And so often we are not making the right decisions for our business. And it also creates a stressed culture within the team, which eventually stifles creativity, and people are not actually able to do their best. So when you take the positive intelligence test, you basically are able to get a report, a personalized report, where you can actually know about your saboteurs. And when you become aware of the saboteurs, it is almost like shining light on an invisible enemy. Right? So think about this analogy of a stadium. You are standing in the middle of a stadium, and the stadium is totally dark. You don't see anything around you, and there are actually 10 attackers who attack you from different directions. You can't see anything, so you're not going to be able to protect yourself, defend yourself. And now think of the stadium actually getting lit by floodlights. You are able to see all of these attackers very clearly. Now there is a higher chance that you can actually defend yourself. And so that's what happens with the positive intelligence framework. You basically shed light on some of these patterns. It becomes these patterns actually come from your unconscious to your conscious attention, and from there actually you can start working on them and you can start changing them to more positive behaviors. So we do a lot of this in organizations, combining this with 360-degree feedbacks. For those of you who have worked in a corporate setup, I'm sure you have heard of 360-degree feedback, where you take feedback from people working around you, those people who react with you on a day-to-day basis, who work with you on a day-to-day basis. Why is 360-degree feedback useful? Is because most of these behaviors are unconscious. We said that they are actually led by unconscious patterns of the mind. We are often not aware of things which we are the negative emotional patterns. We are often not aware of them. So we call them the blind spots, right? You must have heard of the word blind spots. So often as human beings, we are not able to, even as a leader, we are not aware of some of these blind spots. And when we take the feedback of other people around us, we are able to understand these blind spots, then associate or connect those blind spots to the relevant saboteurs, and from there actually start making change. For example, I already told you about micromanagement as a trait, which happens a lot with leaders and with business owners. The impact is, they are extremely stressed. There is an impact on emotional intelligence, on their leadership capacity, on their ability to trust and delegate. And then there is the ability to associate it to the controller. And once that happens, then we can actually start working on that. Why is it important to deal with these saboteur patterns? It is not only the impact on their leadership or their business, but even on a personal level, health and wellness takes a big toll because of these survival patterns. So, when you're feeling excessively fatigued, for example, insomnia, which we spoke about earlier, high blood pressure, and cardiovascular disorders, mood swings and vulnerability, increased propensity of making mistakes. All of these are associated with the survival patterns. And a big part of the conversation today in organizations, which I'm hearing so often with leaders in organizations, is burnout. Why are we getting burnt out is because we are not dealing with the survival patterns which are leading to stress. If we are able to deal with them, there is chances that we stay away from burnout. But when we do not deal with the stress, the stress keeps accumulating, and at some point the brain basically does not have the capacity to recover, and that is where basically we experience what is called as burnout. And for a lot of people, actually, burnout, they associate it only with this feeling of exhaustion. But now there is a more, we understand burnout more. And there are other aspects of burnout which often I hear from business owners, because a lot of business owners, they tend to experience burnout. And there are three major aspects of burnout. One is the feeling of exhaustion, but also cynicism, negativity, and acute feeling of incompetence. Right? These are three major symptoms of burnout, which we have to keep an eye on. And so, if we are to stay away from burnout, it is very important that we recover. We understand the ways in which our saboteur brain is actually impacting us. And if we don't do that, it's almost like this the story around the King Sisyphus. He was given a curse by a Greek god that he had to push this very huge boulder and huge and heavy boulder up the cliff. And every time he used to actually reach closer to the cliff, what the god used to do is that he used to basically get the boulder to fall back again down. And he used to basically repeat it right from the beginning. And that's the story of our lives, right? We are basically constantly challenged by the same emotional patterns over and over and over again. If we are not able to deal with that, sooner or later, it is likely that they lead to burnout, and from there on it becomes very difficult to recover. We have also seen through our research that only 20% of leaders and teams achieve their true potential. It is because of the same reason. So what we do with positive intelligence is that we have some neuroscience-based exercises which help us in building our mental fitness. These exercises are basically using our senses, our five senses. Our five senses basically are our sight, our hearing, our taste, our touch, and our breath. These are our five senses. At any given point in time, we are using all of the five senses. What the neuroscience behind positive intelligence research has shown is that when we focus on one sense at a time, we are basically able to activate the neural connections in our positive brain, and also we are able to grow new neural connections in the positive brain, and it reduces the neural activity, the gray matter in the survival brain. With that, we are able to then use all of our capacities of the positive brain, the capacity to be more empathetic, the capacity to be more curious about the situation and come to educated ways of dealing with the situation, the ability to innovate, the ability to navigate, which is to make better long-term decisions, and the ability to take action without fear. And so all of these different capacities become more available to us when we are able to deal with the situation better, with the situation from the positive brain. And how does that look like? If to compare with a leader who is led by their saboteurs versus a leader who is led by their sage, we call the positive brain the sage brain. Um, the leaders who are led by their sage brain are often more purposeful. They find more meaning and purpose in what they do. They are more empathetic. They are more creative. They are more confident. They feel calmer and are able to stay calmer even in very stressful situations. They are able to trust and delegate, so they can actually take the help of other people around them, and they are able to form or build alliances rather than try to do everything on their own. They are able to make balanced decisions, strategic decisions. They are able to take more responsibility, be accountable, and they are also very, very innovative. So all of these things happen when you start using more of your positive brain. You're able to actually deal with uncertainty better. Your resilience improves. You are able to take calculated risks, even in very stressful situations. Your tendency to procrastinate reduces, your communication improves, so you are able to actually deal with your clients better, with your maybe with your partners and with your teams better, and you are also able to make better decisions. Now, we tend to think that this is, stress and anxiety and all of these patterns are only for, smaller business owners or people who are lower down the hierarchy. But it is exactly the same when it comes to leaders and CEOs. So there was this seminar of leaders and CEOs actually, where people were asked to anonymously give uh, feedback on what is the thing which is disturbing them the most, right? What is that emotion, that thought in their head which is disturbing them the most? And this is what actually, these people were all CEOs and in big organizations, and they are at the pinnacle of their business success. This is what actually they said. One of them said, "I am terrified of failing as a leader of my business." This is all anonymous, which is why they were able to open up, right? But this is what actually at the back of the mind is going on for them. One of them said, "I am afraid of dying at an early age because I'm so stressed and anxious all the time. I feel my life is totally off balance." This is what another one said. They were growing up. Now I find it very difficult to really connect with them. And that is what happens when we have a lopsided life, where we are not able to connect with our loved ones as we are actually focusing too much on our business. I rarely feel at peace with myself. I feel terribly lonely, and the antidepressants I'm taking don't seem to work. So I have actually recently worked with clients who have been able to give up on antipsychotics and antidepressants. I mean, they have been able to phase themselves out of antipsychotics, not antipsychotics, sorry, anxiolytics. They were taking anxiolytics and antidepressants. They've been able to phase themselves out of these. There have been people who have been able to quit on smoking and other addictions, which are also part of the survival brain. Addictions are also because of the survival brain, and so on and so forth. So there, you see that it is, when it comes to the impact of the saboteur brain on us, it is not actually, where we are in the corporate ladder, which actually makes a difference, because all of us have the same amount of stress, and we are all actually dealing with the similar challenges of our brain. So with positive intelligence, we basically use the concept of neuroplasticity, where we are able to actually rewire the brain and create new neural pathways in parts of our brain where, which is the positive brain, which is actually governing our executive functions, as I already mentioned. And all of this is based on research which has been done in Stanford University. So they actually measured using MRI scans. They saw the brains of two individuals before and after the several weeks on the positive intelligence exercises, and they found that the picture on the left is basically of a person, a participant in the program, and they found that the person's survival brain was highly activated and charged, if you see here. And for others, actually, for the same person after the program, they were able to actually see that their positive brain was significantly, more activated. The research has actually shown that their performance has improved several times. All of the leaders who are part of the research, when they actually did this with students, their test results improved. People improved in their emotional intelligence and self-awareness, which was very, very understandable, because all of the aspects of emotional intelligence are actually linked to the survival brain reactions. Wellness improved. People actually started falling less sick. They reported less burnout. Their relationships improved. Their immune system improved, and people were able to sleep better. They had lesser blood pressure and other cardiovascular issues. And there was one very, very astonishing result which came out, and all of this research is published in the book. You can actually read up the book. It's called Positive Intelligence, and it is written by Shirzad Shamin. The research actually showed that this cohort of people, they actually live 10 years longer. So there is actually an impact on lifespan and life expectancy. And so all of the competencies, the sub-competencies within emotional intelligence, all of them improve when you work with positive intelligence. Your self-awareness improves, the way you regulate your emotions improves, the way you actually work on your relationships improves, and your social awareness improves as well. Why is this so powerful? Because you remember right in the beginning, we spoke about the limitations of traditional training and personal development. What we are doing here is that we are not only focusing on insight, which is just 20% of change, but 80% of change is actually about rewiring the brain and to remove those deep-seated, hardwired neural patterns which are not serving us anymore. So we are supposed to actually remove some of those patterns and reinstall new patterns. This is all done with the help of a mobile app. So this mobile app actually is a part of the program. And we basically do various different types of exercises. And also this is combined with one-on-one or group coaching, which helps you in understanding, becoming aware of some of these patterns and to change those patterns over time. So we basically give 6 months for a more long-lasting, sustainable change, which then becomes, these new patterns then become a part of your daily life and your business, your ability to run the business. But it's not only about business which gets impacted with positive intelligence. It's aspects like stress, wellness, your relationships improve. Parenting is as a parent, our parental behavior is often driven also by our saboteurs, our emotional intelligence, conflict management, creativity, leadership, and performance. All of that actually tends to improve. So that's about all. Before I close and take open the floor for questions, I just wanted to share a few offerings for everyone who is a part of IAPC&M. Thank you very much for your attention. There are three offers which I wanted to make. The first one is basically a discovery session on positive intelligence, which means that you take the assessment. I'm going to share the link to this assessment. This assessment is part of the positive intelligence program, but for IAPC&M members, basically we will give this assessment as a complimentary assessment. So you can take the assessment and I will get on a 60-minute call with you where we unpack the results of this positive intelligence saboteur self-assessment. And I will actually show you how you can work with these saboteurs and make them less sabotaging you in your work, in your business, in your life, and in your relationships. The full program is basically a 6-month program. This program includes 8 weeks of coaching. So we basically do 8 weeks of coaching. There is the mobile app which you use to train your mind, to rewire your brain. We basically give you 12 months full access to the mobile app. And the sessions, basically, these are weekly sessions for the first 8 weeks, and then it becomes monthly sessions where we help you in applying the positive intelligence principles in your business, in your life, and in your relationships. There are daily visualization exercises, and there are more than 50 hours of learning content on the positive intelligence app. So different modules where you can learn how to apply it with parenting, with conflict management, with leadership, with coaching, and so on and so forth. So all of these modules are included in the mobile app itself. And even the positive intelligence book that I spoke about, they are all part of this program. With this offer, once again, you can get a 50% off on the whole program. So you basically will end up saving 1,290. So that's the saving you will have if you basically use this offer as part of what we are doing today. There is another activity which I run for business owners. This is mainly for small business owners. This is called as the Alpha Group. The Alpha Group is basically a community of small business owners from across the UK and Europe. We basically run workshops. These are monthly workshops, which are 4-hour workshops once a month on Zoom. And we basically work together as a group of small business owners on business strategy. So this is the first two are mindset based. This is strategy based. So here we talk about business strategy, and we work on different aspects of business strategy. So each workshop is one new topic. So we work on topics like removing strategic barriers to your business growth, how to focus on the right niche for your business growth, identifying the right value proposition, making a business plan, a fast growing business plan for yourself and your business, how to build a team if you are building a team, planning how to increase the profits in your business, developing a pipeline of new products, services, or offerings, how to generate more clients for your business growth, and so on and so forth. So there are different topics. We have about 60 different topics, and every month we work on one topic in where you actually, it's a hands-on workshop where you work on the topic. The workshop is facilitated by me, and all of you, basically all of the group members, work on the workshop material. So we give you materials which are proprietary materials. You work on your business strategy in a hands-on manner, and you also get wisdom and suggestions from other business owners. This is one part of the alpha group. The second half is what we call as a mastermind, where you bring your business challenges. One business owner brings a business challenge, the other people brainstorm and share interesting ideas, give interesting ideas on how you can solve your business challenge and how you can actually grow your business. So very, very interesting community exercise for small business owners. And for anyone from IAPC&M who would like to join, you would get a complimentary guest pass to one of these workshops. And then you can decide, you attend one workshop and you see if that is working for you, and then you can decide if you want to continue as a member or not. So if you would like to avail of any of these resources, you can actually write to me, drop me an email at my email address, which is on this slide right now. I'm also putting my email in the chat. And the assessment link is what you can see here. You can actually also use this assessment link to take the assessment. It is a test which will take about 25 minutes of your time. And if you send me the assessment link, if you send me the assessment report, so once you take the test, at the end of the test, you'll have to give your email. You will get a personalized report on your email. If you send me the report and drop me a message, I will be able to offer you the discovery session, the free discovery session, which I spoke about, in which we can unpack your report and work through how it may be impacting your business growth, or any other aspect of your life where you think that a change is needed. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, and here are some other websites and resources that you can avail of. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure being with you today.
Thank you very much,
I hope that this
Rajeev.
was interesting, and I'm here for any questions that you may have.
Rajeev, I actually have a question, if I may.
Yes, please.
So, from your experience, let's say that I was to take the positive intelligence test tomorrow. How long before any modification to the results is needed before any results are seen? And I know this may be a question for $1 million, but just out of curiosity.
No, generally it takes for any significant change, it takes at least a few months, which is why the program is run for 6 months, because any significant behavioral change, this is basically, you must remember that these saboteur patterns are basically hardwired in your brain, and they have not actually got formed in one day. It is actually over decades that these patterns have formed in your brain. So to be able to really rewire your brain, you will basically take about 6 months. That is what is my experience. But in 8 weeks, the first 8 weeks, you start seeing the changes already. You start seeing the changes in the way you react to situations, the way you react to people around you. You start seeing actually the changes in the way you lead your business, and so on and so forth. So the changes you will start seeing the changes in 8 weeks. but you will start seeing sustainable change in about 6 months' time. But this is basically, consistent practice which is needed for you to be able to, continue that progress. It's just like physical fitness, which is why we call it mental fitness, right? You go to a gym, for example, to train your physical muscles. You cannot expect that you train for a week and stay fit for the rest of your life. You have to do it consistently, and that's exactly why we call this mental fitness, right? This is something which you have to do consistently to be able to see the benefits in the rest of your life. Thank you very much, Natasha.
Thank you for your answer. Any other questions?
Wonderful. It was a pleasure meeting you, Don, Rachel, Steve, and thank you very much, Elena, for your gracious hosting. It was wonderful being with all of you today. I hope you took away some interesting insights from today's conversation, and I hope to see you around soon.
Thank you very much, Rajeev. We enjoyed your wisdom. Have a good day.